Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 103, recorded on Friday, July 17th, 2020 from Southern California and Zenatta Consulting. I'm Brett Martin.
And from Cincinnati, Ohio, I'm Tyler Colt, and let's jump right on into the news.
Before we do, Tyler, last week you were from San Diego. What happened?
Well, so I moved cross-country over this past week out here to Cincinnati. My girlfriend's going to be doing a master's program at the college out here, so packed up all my stuff and my dog, and we made the commute.
Fantastic. I tell you, one middle of this trip, you said I'm in some city. Was it in Oklahoma or somewhere? And
Yes, we drove through Utah, Colorado, through Kansas, Missouri, and then Illinois, Indiana, and then finally Ohio.
It was crazy, but there was some city you spent the night at, and I looked at it on the map to see where you were, and you literally were in the middle of the country. I don't think you
that would have been Salina, Kansas.
Salina, Kansas. Crazy, man.
I got to say, it was a beautiful drive. Honestly, there were a couple stretches of kind of the flatness, but really, I mean, of course, Utah, Colorado are gorgeous, all the trees, kind of rolling mountains. But even, driving through the Great east side of Kansas and Missouri and Illinois, just the amount of trees coming from, being Southern California people, you really just aren't used to seeing that many trees just everywhere. It was really cool.
That's nice. It's a great drive. It's fun. So I'm glad you guys made it safe. So now let's go ahead and get on to the news. So we're going to start with devote an entire page here to Zoho Notebook. They have done a couple of things. So they did a integration for Microsoft Teams, which is pretty nice. It looks like if I'm not a real Teams user, but it seems to have some, but I guess all the kind of integration you would want. You can view and modify the notes with your Teams. You can create note cards from Teams. So pretty nice. And the integration, there's a little nice blog post on it, but it's actually you can get it over at AppSource from Microsoft and go ahead and add it directly into your Teams. So continued work on Zoho Notebook.
Yeah, it seems like it's consistently getting these types of updates. Real nice here just because, anytime that you're taking notes, just being able to click them over to someone else in your network over there on Teams, it's going to be super valuable.
And to that end, they also have done some work with the Notebook Web Clipper. They did a complete revamp on this, and we're going to talk about this in a little detail here because what's interesting with this is that it is pretty much kind of something you would just see out of, it's basically the Zoho Annotator with one more feature, and that you can actually grab a website link, but then missing a bunch of features because you can only save whatever you're clipping to Zoho Notebook. But the revamp, for the most part, looks to me like basically they just took everything that they had in Zoho Annotator and they kind of added it in to Zoho Notebook Clipper here. But it is nice, and we're going to talk about this in a little more detail when we talk about our application of the week, because I decided to make that Zoho Annotator, and we'll talk about both these when we get to there. But it's a nice update. They continue to do it. This is one of those things, though, Tyler, where I look at it and I say, let's just kind of consolidate some products. I think there are a lot of things Zoho can do that with now and not have so many products that are just so darn similar.
Yeah, and all the different kind of names across the board on these different products, so they may do the same thing. But this one's definitely a nice little tool, and again, we'll dig into a little more detail later in the show.
All right, let's move on here. So, okay, I'm going to get you spun up now. So, Zoho Bigin had a whole bunch of small enhancements that they talk about over in the Zoho community. Little teeny things. You can import notes into modules. They've got a little add-on for additional records, so you can now purchase additional records. If you've got more than 50,000, you can buy these add-ons because it's limited, because it's Bigin and it's small and it's supposed to be a small little thing. Products module is now over in the mobile app. The telephony's in a few other places. But the thing that's baffling about this is I was reading the comments, and when you start going through down the comments and you read them, a gentleman asked the question basically like, hey, this is all great, but when is this going to be in integrated into Zoho CRM? And the answer on this is, it's going to be integrated in Zoho CRM in August. I don't even know what that means, but evidently they're going to integrate this into CRM integration is in the final phase of development. We're trying our best to get it out by the end of August.
So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. I mean, it's, maybe they're thinking about it like Bigin kind of as an extension, like take your big bulky deal pipeline from the CRM that might store financial data or pricing data and a lot of more granular stuff. And maybe you kind of sync that over and show like a reduced version in Bigin or, something along the lines there. I mean, I would definitely imagine a contacts and account sync is going to be there in that integration, but it'd be interesting to see what they do with the deal pipeline because, if you're able to basically take the CRM deals and then display a trimmed down version of those over in Bigin, that could be pretty slick, just to kind of do a little pipeline management over there, but we'll have to wait and see. It's not clear, I think, to either of us exactly what this integration is gonna look like.
I say just take all the time and effort they've done on the nice little Bigin interface and just move it directly over to Zoho CRM, and then I think life would be much better. I don't know where we're going with any of this, but at least they continue to do those updates. That gives me hope for a whole lot of other things. All right, and then Zoho Creator now has some new cloud functions. So help me out with this. What's going on here?
Yeah, so basically these are just different types of functions, right, than your standard functions. So, your standard Zoho Creator custom function is going to be basically running on the Zoho Creator servers, right? These are going to be a little bit different. They're going to be able to be written in either Java or Node.js, which is basically going to allow you to, I would imagine, connect these out to third-party data systems like, maybe AWS, maybe Azure, a little bit easier. It's not exactly my total wheelhouse here, and you get into kind of working with some of those third-party systems, but I would imagine that basically what they're trying to do is expand the connectivity of a Zoho Creator app out to some of those other data warehouses that you may be using.
Yeah, it's interesting. So you're basically going to just call them as you would anything using, workflows, using Deluge. You're going to call these and use them, but I guess they're living. I'm still trying to understand the serverless aspect of this. What they mean by they're executed serverlessly, and they're supported only by Creator's infrastructure. Does that mean that they're actually running inside the Creator app?
It could be that they're not actually running on the back end.
Huh. All right, so that's a cloud function. We'll have to dig into that, but it looked interesting. I thought we should touch on it, and we'll see what they seem like. There's going to be something. They're very excited about it, so it'll be curious to see where this goes and what this does to the overall development. And then also in Zoho news, we've got some Zoho projects. Zoho projects got a whole bunch of updates, 4 of them in total. You got timesheets, layouts, and fields. You've got Outlook adaptive cards, and I'm really not familiar with this at all. So Microsoft 365 integration lets users perform blueprint transitions using Outlook adaptive cards sent via email. Looks cool. Don't know what it is.
Yeah, that's pretty slick. I'll come back and touch on that here in a moment.
Yeah, then dependencies can now be hyperlinked. I think that's pretty cool. And
necessary.
Very necessary.
I'd call that one a necessary.
I would too. And then, wow, you can now sync a project template to Zoho Sprints. That just seems to me to be totally cool. That's just great for so many, many
kind
reasons.
of across the board. And that's always been a nice little integration there with projects and sprints. And basically the way it breaks down is you have projects as like a waterfall or cascade project management tool. And then sprints is going to follow kind of the Scrum or Agile methodology. And you've always been able to basically embed a sprint inside of a project. And this is basically expanding that functionality there. But a lot of these are nice. I mean, being able to have custom fields on a timesheet entry, customize the layout there so you get a little bit more detail about what the time was logged against. Is it billable? Is it, you can kind of track a little better on actually what you're doing with those with those timesheets. The adaptive cards in Outlook, basically what that's referring to is, when you turn on the 365 integration, basically connects a couple different parts of Outlook to Zoho projects. So for example, it'll allow you to post out a project's event into the Outlook calendar. What this is doing is basically embedding a little bit of code inside of an email notification about a task that allows you to actually get buttons inside of your email that would move that task or that activity in projects to the next step or stage in a blueprint. So if you're watching us on YouTube here, you'll see we've got a little picture pulled up, and basically it looks like the owner of a task was changed, and that triggered a notification out to their example user. And what she's able to do just directly from this email is either submit this change for approval, request some additional data about the change, put it on hold, right? And basically take this through a blueprinted process, just directly from inside of the user's email address. And, it's always ideal, right? We always want to preach the best place to work on this stuff is going to be inside of projects itself. But, we all spend a lot of time in our email. So, being able to control the flow of some of these activities without leaving the browser is going to be real nice to have for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think that there are certain things, Cliq is one. I mean, it depends on what you live in. So you're living in email. Oftentimes you're living in your internal communication platform, whether that's Slack or Cliq. And it's nice just to be able to quickly, progress some of these things along, complete tasks, whether across all the different platforms. This is just another extension of that.
I'd love to see this in Cliq. Shoot over nice. A little Cliq notification with a few buttons. That would be real nice. Probably in the works.
All right. And then this is kind of cool. So they did a complete reorg of the back end in the CRM of all of the setup page. And part of this now is Zoho Directory. So Zoho Directory Integration inside the CRM. So it's going to single sign-on, managing your password policy, all your multi-factor authentication. So really, this is, Active Directory, if you will. It's Zoho Directory, and it actually allows you to sync to Active Directory as well. So ZD and AD can talk to each other. Login histories are captured. So this is Zoho stepping up to the enterprise level and allowing for user management in a method that is extremely necessary. I'm just really happy to see this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're a company above a certain number of users, you have to have some type of directory system. You can't just be running on user logins to track this stuff. You need that master directory. And so Zoho has actually rolled out over time a lot of different integrations with Active Directory. And this is basically them, expanding their own directory software to be able to actually use that to manage your team and their logins and a bunch of the information about those people. So it's kind of been one of their goals is to expand a little more into the enterprise level, those 75, 100 plus user type of installs. And in those types of installs, you really do need functionality like this. So it's good on them for rolling this out.
And they've got a very nice overview on Zoho Directory, which, by the way, is Z. I'm going to make that ZD's trademarked there. We got a little TM after that. So anyway, we got the whole ZD trademark there. And they're going to talk about Zoho Directory, Active Directory, LDAP, Zoho Directory Sync, how it all works, how to set it up, all those kind of things. The interesting part, if you go to this article, is it's under Cliq. So it seems to me it would have maybe been under Zoho 1, would have been a better place for it, but they're basically categorizing this under Cliq. So anyway, good stuff. Anything more we want to talk about on that?
I think that's all I got.
All right. And then along the same line of kind of fixing things out, Zia has got its own separate category section. So kind of like we were talking about earlier there, if you go ahead and you look at the what they've done here on the back end is they've kind of broken out Zia under the setup into its own little area now. So data enrichment, prediction, recommendations, communication, conversational AI, vision, and notifications. I have not played with all of these yet. But
yeah, we've definitely done, and so this is all taking place in the CRM here.
Right.
And data enrichment's one that we've definitely used in the past. It basically goes out and it can scrape stuff for you. Prediction's interesting where it's moving stages. It's kind of suggests use it for lead status or deal stage, which, I mean, if that works well, it could be really nice because, one of the things that oftentimes happens at an organization is, let's say you have a certain set of lead statuses that you want people to go through. And let's say that it's untouched, cold, warm, and hot, and then converted. So if you're able to build some logic into Zia and based on their interactions with emails or calls, if it can actually move those stages for you, that would save, sales reps a little bit of time on having to manually click any of that. And they've got a tab for recommendations where it can suggest some macros or workflows you may want, work around communications. So that's tracking like best time to contact, email sentiment, things like that. There's kind of a whole set of Zia tools. And I think they kind of reorganized them because before they were spread out kind of all over the place in the CRM. Like, you notice, oh, there's Zia Vision. Like, what does that do? I've never seen that before. Whereas now they're giving you one central place to see all those different Zia activities that they can do for you.
And Zia, not really artificial intelligence across the board for everything they put it under. I mean, they're kind of using it as a catch-all kind of for a lot of their automations and, recommendation engines. I'm not sure how much artificial intelligence is in a lot of this, but some Zia, it does seem to have that. So it depends on what you're looking at. But interesting to see how they're categorizing this. It's much needed. I have to say, though, that setup page is getting pretty busy.
It is. There's a whole bunch of stuff on there.
It's grown by leaps and bounds lately. So I don't know.
It's an embarrassment of riches on that page with all the different functionality you've got.
Absolutely. And then in mobile app news, Zoho subscription got some major updates here, kind of a big overhaul to Zoho subscription for iOS. So if you're using Zoho subscriptions, which is also getting better and better and better on the other side, you can now, they've got some interesting things here. I'm not sure how some of these fit. So one of them is, create customers taking pictures of business cards. I guess you're going to scan their business card and just sign them up for a subscription right then and there. But I know this is just a way of getting them in because they all synchronize. And sometimes I think we often forget that people don't have all the Zoho apps. They may just have Zoho subscriptions. So this is one way to get everybody in, a prospect in, put them in as a customer, and maybe get them on a subscription down the road. A lot of this is just basic stuff. So dark mode, they've very nicely are starting to standardize the UI across the various finance apps. So the user interface is now in line with what all the other Zoho finance apps are looking like. So that's good. And then some other stuff. I don't know, anything else jump at you here that was
yeah, it looks like they're kind of taking advantage of some of the new functionality that iOS can be rolling out. So doing some kind of haptic touch tracking, a little bit of additional mouse and trackpad support for the iPad OS. So they're kind of just tapping into some of the new functionalities that Apple is letting people use for these mobile applications.
All right. And then Zoho Meeting also had just a slew of updates for both iOS and Android, and they kind of break them down, but you've got new email customization, recurring meetings, and recurring webinars. Those are features that are actually sitting in the desktop app. So they added those in. I put this in our mobile section because it's really kind of Android and iOS that seem to get the bulk of the updates into this meeting app. I think a lot of this is just being driven. It's a lot of catch up. I'm actually liking it a lot because we have complained it's about Zoho Meeting for so long. And I think that because of COVID and because of work from home and because they have 8,000 employees that are all working remotely now and everyone else is, that they're really just starting to build in just a lot of things that pretty much are in all the top shelf meeting apps. So this is probably time for us to really maybe start spinning up a few meetings with Zoho Meeting, Tyler, and see how it's holding up these days. And if it's good, then maybe it is starting to get ready for prime time. But all some good updates here.
Yeah, and I mean, kind of across the board, just some things that you'd expect to have. And some of these, like you said, are already in the browser app, but now they're rolling out to mobile as well. And yeah, I mean, we've always liked the UI and kind of the look and feel of Zoho Meetings. So if they keep kind of layering on some of these best-in-class features, I think they'll be moving up into the yes column pretty soon here.
Yeah. And with that, let's talk about our implementation of the week.
Yeah, so this was one that we originally did for a client, but as we look more and more at moving back to Zoho Workdrive, may end up spinning this up for ourselves as well. And this is basically a little integration with the Zoho CRM and Zoho Workdrive. And we're using Zoho Flow, kind of a mainstay here in this section, as the platform for the integration. And basically what this does is you can set up a trigger at a specific point in a deal. So let's say once a certain deal stage is hit, right on that stage, you can send out a webhook over to Zoho Flow. And all you really need in the webhook is just the ID of the deal. And what you can do with that deal ID in Flow is basically trigger the creation of an externally shareable Workdrive folder within a specific team folder, right? So you'd have like a team folder for client files, and then subfolders that we would create with this automation, basically named after each of the deals or each of the accounts on file for the deals. And then basically what it does is once it creates that new folder, it'll actually grab the externally shareable link and write it back to the deal. So it kind of goes both ways, where it goes and creates the folder, names it after the deal, takes the link, and writes that link back into the deal. And then, of course, like you can with any link, the users that are in the CRM can just click to open that from the deal. And you can add it as a merge field in email templates. So if you had a couple templates where you were requesting some files from clients, you could just take this link and embed it right into one of those email templates and send it off, to the contact of that deal.
This might be a baby step for us finally to do our migration, because right now there's basically an entire manual process here for us where we create a shared folder in Google Drive, and then we set up these sharing permissions. We grab the link, we go back and we copy and paste it into the deal manually, where it then becomes a field that's linked. So the total automation of this entire process.
Yeah, basically tip to tail.
Nice. Good stuff. All righty. So let's move on to this week's reads. For those of you watching on video, I've got a web page up here from eBay from about, I guess, 1995, 1996. This must be 99, because this is copyright 95 to 99. So this has really evolved eBay at this point in time, their initial website. But I like this article. This is over from CustomerThink. It's by Denyse Drummond-Dunn. And it's from Good Rate, engage more successfully with your website. And she does some really nice stuff. I mean, she wrote another article years ago called 7 Essentials of a Customer-Centric Websites. I took a look at that. It's pretty good. She's referencing another article in here called, Top 9 Attributes of Effective Websites by a guy named Craig Reardon. That also was really, really good. So she kind of came up with, things that you really need to consider when you're doing your website. You're really, I think, constantly in the state of evolving our website and going through it. So I'm always looking at things like this, but just some really great stuff. I mean, her number one with a bullet is just perfect. It's for the customer, not just you. And I think sometimes people forget that. You need to make it easier for your customers to navigate. But this is a great article. I'm not going to read it here out loud, but what I will say, it's great for a couple reasons. One, she's right on the money. She's got great points. But man, is this full of other great links that you can just, I mean, you can spend hours just following her links and going to other things and, and kind of getting deeper into any of this. But anyway, great article. Any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I kind of like a couple of the points here. Basically providing as many different ways to contact you, making it clear how to do so, right? And that I think especially comes into play for existing customers. It never bothers me more than when I, need to contact support on a website for a product that I own and I cannot find the link. And you finally see this tiny little contact support in the bottom right of the page, and it's just so clear that they don't want you to do that, right? So there's a couple of these little tips that she's showing that I think, more than just thinking about new customers, thinking about your existing ones and making sure that they can find what they need on your site as well.
Yeah, I don't know what to do about it. It's funny you're one up because I had to get a hold of Cox Cable this week.
I was thinking Charter Spectrum.
it's like a game of cat and mouse. It's just, let's hide it. Let's put it over here. I'll click here. And then, you think you're going to that, but you're not. You're really just going to a knowledge base. And,
Yep.
you kind of
And
have
then you're in a chat bot that doesn't work.
it's just complete. Yeah, you finally think you're going to get somebody, you never do. Yes, do they really care? I mean, but that's purely intentional, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's you're so big, you really don't care about your customers anymore. You need them to suffer. So I don't know, but anyway, it's a great read. I highly recommend you take a look at it. I think she's spot on there. And then over at Zenatta.com, we've got a whole bunch of different things. We've got an article on getting started with Zoho Sites. It's funny, we're doing more and more stuff with Zoho Sites. We now have a web developer on staff at Zenatta, and he's been doing a lot of stuff in WordPress, but he also loves Zoho Sites. And if you haven't taken a look at it, if you really just need kind of some, I don't know if I can recommend it for a full-blown website for most people right now. It depends, but it's getting close. But it's certainly great for landing pages and things like that at this point, and it's included with your subscription to Zoho One for most people. But anyway, nice little article on getting started with Zoho Sites there as well. And then building out that resource library, as we're always trying to do. I mean, we keep talking about this, but we've got two great things here. We've got Zoho Creator 2019 Year in Review, and I don't know where we found this, and I don't know where Zoho hides these things, but it's this is just kind of going through all of the various, what they did, all of the improvements and all the things they did. And so, if you just want to see what happened, it's a great little summary. And we keep digging for these things. So if you haven't checked out our resource library to do that, then we also have building a vertical application. And this is in the Zoho Developers, the Zoho Creator as well, part of their new little developer thing. And it's basically going to step you through step by step on how to build a vertical CRM using Zoho Developer, and good stuff all the way around. So be sure to check those out as well.
And then last but not least, on our YouTube page, we put up a quick video on how to set up GDPR compliance inside of Zoho Campaigns. So that's, of course, if you're doing any mass mailing out to Europe, you definitely want to know how to set this up. And don't be surprised if laws like this end up kind of making their way to the US as well over time. So it's probably just a good thing in general. If you kind of run the marketing for your company or team, you probably just want to be aware of GDPR, rules and regulations, as well as how to dial those in for Zoho Campaigns. So you got a video out to that on the YouTube page.
And that video is actually our tip and trick of the week as well. So we'll talk about that in a little more detail here in a bit and kind of go through it. It's funny. It's an 8-minute video, and it's pretty sparse. And it's just basically how you could do it. There's kind of a lot to getting that set up. And then for our application of the week, we're going to talk a little bit here about Zoho Annotator. So I brought this up. We've covered it in the past, but it's been a while. And it also has undergone a lot of improvements. And I'm talking about it because earlier we talked about how Zoho Notebook has got its own little web clipper. And I want to kind of talk about the differences between the two here. So if you look at this page, I'm just on a Zenatta page if you're listening. You've got a couple of things. If you click on the Notebook, it gives you the ability to create a bookmark. So you can easily just grab a link, or you can get a screenshot, and on the screenshots, you can do part of the page, focus page, or full page, or you can go ahead and you can put it into reader view. So for the most part, that's really, if I just do a part of the page here and I grab a part of the page, all it's really going to ask me is, when I capture it, it's going to give me all of the various annotation marks. And when you say you're done, it's like, great, what notebook do you want to add it into? And I'll just put it in my personal notebook. Great, there, it's done. It's over. That's really your choice because it's a notebook clipper, so it allows you to put something only into Notebook. What I love, I think what we love about Zoho Annotator is it gives you much more. You can do the entire desktop, a full page, a focused area. You can do a visible area of the page. You can do a part of the page. You can not only annotate, but you can also download. So if I do the same thing with the part of the page and I grab the same part of the page that I would normally do, you'll notice if you're watching, if I click Clipper, it's the same exact format. It is the same tool across the board, except when I click Done, my choices are now amazing. So not only can I go ahead and save it to Zoho Notebook and choose the notebook that I want, but I could go ahead and I could put it in Cliq. I can put it in projects. I can send it to sprints. I can drop it into Connect. I can send it through email. I can upload it to a cloud drive. I can get a shareable link of this image. I can download it. It's just crazy. So it just, if you think about the amount of things you can do with this, it's just tremendous. The only thing missing from Annotator is the ability to just grab a link. If you could just grab a link, you'd be done because then it's exactly the same application as the Notebook Web Clipper. So this is one of those things where all the way around, I'm not complaining. Zoho, you're doing a great job. These are super powerful tools. But I would love to see a little consolidation, I think, across the board for some of these things right now. And this would be one where you could easily get rid of Notebook Clipper and just have the Zoho Annotator. Just add that a couple little teeny features that are missing, in that, because Annotator far and away is the more full-fledged of all the two. But great application. One of the things also I didn't mention on this is if let's say you're looking at something, you've got an image, so you've got this little image on the page here. You can actually right click on that image and go ahead and send it and say, I want to annotate this image, and Zoho Annotator will just launch. And you can kind of complete. So if you're ever on the web and you're like, oh, wow, this is great. I mean, the ability just to quickly, you don't even have to clip the image. It just is going to pull that image straight off the website and allow you to go ahead and annotate that, send notes on it, do some great things. So all in all, just a really great application.
Yeah, super powerful, kind of bringing together all the different integrations as well. Just being able to write it into Cliq, Connect, projects, sprints across the board is just so powerful because, Notebook has integrations with a lot of those tools, but then you'd be writing it into a note and then connecting that note as a second step out. But this kind of consolidates everything into, one little plugin to use.
And the one thing I will say that's driving me nuts about all this too is that you'll notice the one thing that was missing from Annotator.
I know what you're going to say.
What am I going to say? CRM.
CRM notes.
Yeah, you can't save it to CRM. You can put it to Cliq and you can choose the channel. You can do the whole thing, but you can't save any of this stuff to there. And also with Notebook, you can never take a note and share it to the CRM as well. And it's one thing we've talked about. There must be a level of difficulty here in the integration that we're just missing, Tyler, because with all these other things you're doing, that just seems to be such an obvious one, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's got to be something under the hood there, because it seems like it should be the same as adding it as a note on like a project's task, or something like that. But, it's got to be different. There's some reason because they know they got to be definitely aware that would be a nice one to have with how many people are using CRM.
All right. And then we kind of covered this a little bit, but our tip and trick of the week is how to set up GDPR. And it is and that is in Zoho Campaigns. And Tyler, you talked about this a little bit. This is the EU's privacy regulation, if nothing else. And when this first came out, this was going to be the thing that ended all email marketing and destroyed the internet in a lot of ways. It hasn't done that. And so we've got that over on our YouTube channel. Got some, we just keep adding stuff here. So this is over in our tips and tricks section, and it's Zoho Campaigns, how to set up GDPR. We've also been doing a whole Zoho CRM 101 series going on right now. Looks like we need to change these hands to the new CRM logo.
Looks like it.
It looks like we're going back and forth with a couple of these. But we're adding new content every week over here. And if you are marketing to the European Union, even if you're not, I kind of think it's not necessarily a horrible idea to set up GDPR anyway.
Yeah, you just want to make sure that that you know at least about it. And I think honestly, the consent or kind of double opt-in email is a good habit. It's going to limit your bounce rate anyways and your unsubscribe rate, which could get you flagged by an email sender or any of the mail clients that are receiving your outbound. So it's not a bad thing to set up just in general to make sure that the people that you're emailing actually want those emails.
And we need to, talk about it too a little more. Zoho is big on privacy. They're big on protecting user data. They're almost like Apple in this regard. And, their GDPR, they've gone all the way with it. So it's to the point where, after 14 days, all the user data is gone. Anything you collected on them, is removed from campaigns, and the click-throughs and the link. Just any personal information just completely gets stripped. So there's just a a bunch of detailed settings. Like I said, it's I think the video is 7 minutes and 10 seconds. So it's quite a bit to go through and getting all of the GDPR set up properly, how you want to do it. So Zoho's put a lot of thought into this, and they really are security minded and privacy minded. It's one of the things we love about them. So kudos for Zoho. I want to shout out to Wayne for putting that video together for everybody.
And that's a wrap for our show this week. If you've got any questions or comments, be sure to send them over to us at info@zenatta.com, or just head over to zenatta.com and drop us a line.
And on the website is where you will find complete episodes as well as show notes with links to the stories we discussed today. You can also follow us on your favorite social media platform and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app. We'll see you next Monday.